We are here today to talk about the most interesting things on the planet: AI, scale, and doing it right. Here with us to help guide us through this crazy maze, Orly Lewinter, CMO to the stars, CMO advisor, seen it all twice, told him how to do it both times. Thank you very much for joining us, Orly. Over to her right is John Riley, CEO and co-founder of Akkio, amazing AI native startup. Oh, we're going to get ugly on that one. And I am your host, moderator, and a sonorous voice that will rock you to sleep in the back of the room, Tim Rich, head of AI for Horizon Media. That's right, world's largest independent media firm. We're big, but we're really cute. Okay, so what we're talking about today, my dear friends, is really thinking about AI and thinking about AI at scale. And so the question becomes, we got to roll this out, right? Someone's got to build it. I think it's probably us. So let's take some ideas and let's figure out how these heads are thinking about it. Orly, you first, if I may be so bold with a poignant question. You've had the best seat in the house for seeing digital transformation at agencies. As you're thinking about AI for marketing growth, how do you see this intersection of data, intuition, and then creativity?
I'm the last person to say that I'm an expert in AI, which I'm proud of. That's not my job. My job is to grow brands, to do it sustainably, and with long-standing results. And so I think there are really just some basic tenets of how to grow brands, right? Know your customer, know how and where and when to reach them, do it with killer creative, and then measure whether what you've done has worked and why, or if not, why not. And AI has a role to play in all of those things, making them easier, getting at better results, and it's really exciting that we now have the tools to do that.
Just a quick follow-up. How have you seen kind of the data integrate with creativity in the past? Are you seeing kind of mechanisms repeat?
Yeah,
I've seen happen in the past?
I feel like, for the past couple of decades, we have been inundated with so much data that oftentimes it's been really hard to figure out what to do with that data. The data lives here and the creativity lives over here. And I think the power of AI is to actually bring those things together in a way that they have not been able to before, so that we can use that data in really interesting ways and apply it in ways that are actionable. It's been really interesting over the past couple of decades seeing the proliferation of data, but not seeing it applied. It's been really, really frustrating, and I think we're finally at a point where we're going to get over that.
That seems to be the rub, which is apropos because John, as a technologist and a builder and a datalist of sorts, how do you kind of see building tools to enable the use of this data and set free creativity?
Yeah, we're at a really interesting transition time where language models and technology is going to enabling right now people who previously couldn't do really hard data work across lots of very big data sets, which is necessary to really understand what's going on amongst your audience to build good creative and stuff like that. That's been relegated to a sort of select few very educated people who are very skilled at working with that data. But language models and the technology landscape is breaking down the barrier, and suddenly you can use a language model to traverse all of this data and go bring you back an answer. And I think that's going to really change the game dramatically and allow us all to become more insight-led when we start to make decisions or think about which creative we want to put together for our audience. The data capture has been easy, but taking advantage of it is about to get easy as well. And that's going to be very game-changing.
Orly, when you think about taking advantage of this data, right, how should we start to think about designing solutions, both for internal organizations and for our clients from a design point of view?
Yeah, it's a great question and something you touched on as well. Like I said, to start off, I'm not an expert in AI. I'm not an expert in data science. And for the most part, 95% of my teams aren't either. And that's been a real barrier. And so I think, when you think about the tools that are being built today, making them accessible and user-friendly is going to be key, and will be able to give access to people who are not experts in data to get that data at their fingertips in a way that is understandable, that they can just type in or speak a question, you know, what are the commonalities between all of the best ads that we've, you know, that have performed the best over the past month? You know, that's a hard question to get an answer to if you don't have an AI tool delivering that answer, right? Because that's like buried in reams and reams and reams of data and could take a really long time. And so for me, in my job and for my teams, having access to a tool where I can just ask that question and get a response is really invaluable.
So it seems like in that example, this hypothetical tool, the AI engine, the guts of the mathematics itself, is kind of hidden behind the scenes or designed into the system almost seamlessly.
Just like every great technology today, the iPhone, for example, it's so much better when the mechanics are hidden, when the user interface works intuitively. And I think AI is no different.
Well, the challenge I would like to push on that is, I mean, with AI being such a new form of engagement with computers, and we're having issues of trust, and we're having issues of regulation, and we're having issues of transparency, is there a moment where design is actually the enemy of transparency of these programs? John, as a builder, I kind of want to bounce that over your way. How do you think about design for transparency as well as usability?
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting when you're using AI. You know, like I think we should all realize we've passed this really interesting watershed moment where these language models pass the Turing test, right? You can't tell if you're talking to a language model or a person. And transparently, working with them is like working with a person. And so if you were to ask somebody on the data team to go get you that answer to which campaigns did well and why, you know, that might be a conversation. It might not be just a single question that you ask them, because they're going to interpret well in a way that might not be how you interpret well, right? They might say which campaigns had the lowest cost per click or something, and that might not be what you're interested in terms of.
And you'll say,
right? Yeah.
You'll say, well, actually,
yes.
what I wanted to know is.
So down the line of thought, I think it's actually really important when you're using these types of tools to have a feedback loop where you can see how they interpreted the question, just like you have a feedback loop if you ask somebody on the data team to do the job today. And then you can correct it or give it more information if you need to so that it can go do the task in the right way. And really, like natural language is pretty open to multiple interpretation. And that's kind of the problem, is like it's a noisy communication protocol. And so unless you're like incredibly specific with it, I believe you need to have a lot of transparency for the user to understand how their request was interpreted. So when in our platform, when you ask a question of data, we come back to you and tell you how the AI interpreted the question and the plan that it's going to use to go execute that task, so that you have like really clear understanding of what it's going to do before you tell it to proceed.
And I think, oh, look at that. Well, don't worry about that. No one pay any attention to that. Look right here. What we got coming, though, this is an example, wherever that slide is. Well, let me describe it for all you in the room. There's charts, lines, bars. It's very beautiful. It's incredible. It's an interface like nothing you've ever seen before, but everything you've seen every day. It's perfect in that way. John, when you're designing a tool, the actual functional tool, what kind of design techniques do you do? Because in advertising, we like our aesthetics, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like, you know, beyond just this basic need for transparency and understanding of what you're getting when you ask a question and how it's being interpreted, you have this barrier of adoption that I think exists with any new tools, where like if it's complex to use, if it's difficult to understand, if you have to go to a class or get a certification to put on your LinkedIn in order to interact with the tool, adoption is going to be low. And so we're also at this interesting time where you can actually develop dynamic user experiences now using AI and language models. In the example over here, some of the images around an audience that you ask for are generated automatically. we automatically calculate a bunch of statistics for you. But the paradigm, I think, going forward is going to be that these tools are so easy to use that practically anyone can pick them up and work with them. And that's sort of my bar for ease of use. My deep background is consumer products. I think for a long time in the B2B space, these tools have been sort of like by technical people, for technical people, surrounded by big education things that are necessary in order to take advantage of them. That's all going to change. And things are going to get easier to use, and more people, a lot more people are going to be able to ask the questions and get the answers they need to know in order to make the right decisions. And that takes a different approach and design paradigm when building the tool. You have to think a lot about the user, and you have to think about how you can use AI and language models to tell them interesting things at every step of the way in a dynamic fashion, because so many of the tools have been pretty static. You've had to build the tool on Rails in the past, but now you can ask a language model to describe a chart. You can ask it to explain what's going on in it, and you can present that to the user live. So, sort of the whole user experience concept is undergoing dynamic shift as well, but all in the service of making it wildly easier for more people to use.
I love that. Orly, how do we see upskilling within this?
Well, I think John just gave, the answer to that. Hopefully, we don't need to do any upskilling. I think right now we're at a point where it's like, okay, just get your hands dirty. Start working with these tools. Like, start testing it out and get yourself acclimated and used to working with AI as a tool to do your job. But eventually, and hopefully that point comes very, very soon, we don't need to do that, because the AI is seamlessly integrated into all of the tools we're already using. If I'm, drafting an email to send, data in a CRM campaign, the AI should be built into that email platform. If my customer service team is having conversations with people through their tool, whatever that tool may be, the AI should be built in. I'm not going to ask my customer service rep to be an AI expert, nor am I going to ask my CRM manager to be an AI expert. I think that the best case scenario is that AI is just seamlessly integrated into the tools we're already using, and nobody has to be an expert. So upskilling is not really necessary. It's more just of a mindset shift.
Where does the magic live within that? Right? I mean, because I think sometimes magic happens in slippage between processes, right? In areas that don't quite fit, where there's friction between handoffs or misunderstandings between co-members. That's where kind of magic happens. With this seamless vision of, data sloshing through these screens, where do we make magic? How do we make it?
I think the answer to that is through the human connection. These machines are never going to be able to do, I hope they're never going to be able to do what we humans can do, in terms of the way our brains work, and the way that, when you have two people together collaborating on something, the spark that exists through that physical proximity. I mean, we all experienced it, in those days when we spent all of our time on Zooms. Sitting in a room with people is very different. I think there must be something with the physical proximity of people, and that's the magic. And so I think the beauty of AI is its ability to strip away all the things that we don't need to spend our time doing, and do them better than we could ever do them, get to a point that we could never get to, and then free the rest of us up for that magic.
John, you were building Akkio before the pandemic. And it was a platform that was being used. And you watched it over the pandemic, and now here we are, wherever we are after whatever that date that was. Have you seen shifts of the way people use your platform? Have you seen this kind of re-digitization of teams and products kind of reflect in your user base?
What we've seen is, I think, largely driven by sort of, like the exponential acceleration of the technology curve, meaning the capabilities have gotten to a point where more and more people can actually interact with it. And even today, I'm never satisfied with the ease of use of practically any platform, ours in particular, because it's where I like to spend a lot of time trying to improve it. And I'm not sure I could ever be satisfied, but it's something that happens slowly and then all at once. And sort of the watershed moment was when chat was added to language models. And we were actually using language models before chat was added to them, which made them accessible to a lot more people to manipulate data. And of course, we've been extending that like on a much larger scale at like a much deeper like data size. But you know, the adoption has been like reflected in the sort of like consensus understanding of what's possible amongst people, right? And so what we've seen as more people have become aware of, oh, I could, you know, have a chat with a language model and it could answer some questions for me and perhaps suggest some things that I didn't think of on myself or write a paper for me, for example. What else could it do, right? Turns out a lot, right? One of those areas where I think it can do a lot, and it can do a lot in a really like sort of focused, discrete way is data. And so we've seen a big shift in people thinking about how to apply the language model to data problems. And that's, you know, so that's what we've been building the whole time. But the adoption has certainly taken off post-pandemic, post-ChatGPT.
Orly, you deal in problems professionally. And I imagine as a CMO fixer, you probably come into more than your fair share of dumpster fires. When you think about problems and organizations when we're trying to roll out something like AI that has such promise, but so many blockers, what kind of techniques have you used in the past that's informing your decisions today at the enterprise level?
I think that you know, one of the major problems that I encounter is a resource problem. Always, you know, we don't have enough resources to do X, Y, or Z, and that is the case at, you know, tiny companies, medium-sized companies, large companies. And I think that AI holds so much promise to intercept that and to overcome those issues by choosing the right tools. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a company, all kinds of companies, where it's like, well, we don't know, we have all of this data, but we can't really tell you who our customers really are. You know, I can't tell you what ads performed well and which didn't perform well. And so I think that getting the right tools in the right people's hands, and you know, to be honest, those tools didn't even really exist. AI has been extremely inaccessible to the large majority of people, even people who work in technology and work in advertising and are supposed to be on the cusp of this stuff. It's only now with tools like this that it's really starting to be accessible to people who are not experts or who are not really at the bleeding edge experimenters.
And you see that ease driving adoption through these orgs.
Hugely.
You have individuals with different desires, different opinions. It's an area of agreement, or it's an area of get on board, the train's left the station, do it or don't do it, but
yeah, I don't think it's going to be an option.
This way.
I don't think it's going to be an option to not, I mean, you're not going to be asking an entire organization to start doing their jobs within ChatGPT, but you are going to start seeing AI infuse all of the different platforms that each of the different stakeholders are using, whether they like it or not. It's just going to be, it's like how social media just is now. You know, nobody even thinks about it as social media. They're just platforms that we use. They're integrated into our lives. And I think it's going to be the same with AI. And it's going to be a real boon for the industry, I think.
John, when I think of diversity of platforms, what I think the subtext is diversity of AIs and models themselves. And as a bit of a nerd, I realize that not all models are created equal. How do you take a look at this fracturing world of different AI products and co-pilots and bolt-ons, and how do you start to suss out which one of these AIs, not that they're competing, but simultaneously racing on the same path? How do you start to separate those?
Yeah, the pace of play and change is the fastest I've ever seen in my technology career. And so you have to build test frameworks. And you have to drive a lot of observability around performance. And we are agnostic as to the model we use, because the best model for any given task, and there's many tasks, changes like monthly right now, and sometimes even faster than that. So what it requires is understanding the job to be done, writing like really deep test harnesses around that so you can tell, and then you can run any new model that comes out against those test harnesses. And our platform sometimes uses different models for different functions, serving the same like natural language request you might make of the data. What was my best performing campaign? There might be 3 different models backing that request, figuring out the answer for you and pulling it together. One might be like doing the large approach thinking. One might be writing the SQL code to go get one answer from this data set, and a different one might be better for pulling that all together, right? And so you have to break it down by function under the hood. You have to have a lot of observability, and you have to have like test frameworks that are very robust so you can measure the performance. Otherwise, you can't keep up.
I just wanted to jump in. I think those are some really good points, and I think underscores the need for transparency, governance, compliance. Folks in my seat, we don't know enough to go that deep, and so there has to be some level of accountability on the technology side and on the platform side so that we can build trust into the system.
Would you trust a system, hypothetically, if it just crushed, like every query you threw at it, creative idea, like it was just mopping the floor with it and you were loving it, but then you find out down the road, maybe it got some data from some kids somewhere, which wasn't cool, or something like that. It got a little like, where does the line between like raw results and ethical creation?
Well, also raw results can be misleading as well. If if you're not sure that the models are working properly, it could be spitting me out things that sound good, but do I know whether they're true or not?
Dude, does any of us know what's true? Do we even know?
What is truth?
Yeah, now we're talking. See, I used to think that we were doing applied sociology, and now I realize I'm doing applied philosophy. I question truth every day in this job. John, as you start to compare these models across platforms, do you see different corporate interests having ideas to push different types of models, an unfair advantage of model growth, if you will, in this ecosystem?
I think, well, I'll answer it maybe slightly differently. I don't think you can really do as good of a job as you need to using an off-the-shelf model. I think my analogy is an off-the-shelf model is kind of like a data scientist or a like really competent data engineer that you've just hired into your organization. They know how to do a job with data, but they don't understand how your organization like operates and all of the knowledge that you've accrued over all of the years you've been like building and serving customers and clients and brands. And so, there's this like ramp period where you have to teach them, this is how we build an audience. And these are some of the nuances of the data that we have. And here's where it's safe to play. And here's some place where there's dragons and you should probably avoid. Like these things that you learn over a long period of time. You also have to teach that to the language models. You have to give them the context while you ask them to do the tasks. You have to train them about what's okay and what's not, or how to answer. And that can get very, very custom. That can be, like at a company-wide level about how you operate, but that can also be on a client-by-client basis, like how that client does business or the nuance of that client's specific data. And so, I think you have to like think about like very deeply about the context and operating instructions you provide. And the best analogy I have is it's very much like training a new employee. Like when they just step in and you ask them to do the job, they're not going to have the context to do it right. You've got to train them.
Orly, does that seem daunting? Is it like one more thing to train? You're coming into a hot mess, you're cleaning up things, you're putting out fires, you're getting everybody off the ledge, and now you got to train a GD Model 2. Does this sound like one more thing, or does this seem like a way forward?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like one more thing, but if that one more thing is going to unlock a huge amount of efficiency and make the work that much better, then of course it's worth it. Just like training a new employee.
Mm-hmm. So as we start to think about this, I want to kind of take a step back. I was going to ask what your vision of 10 years was, and then I realized that was naive. And then I thought, what was your vision of 5 years? And I realized that was also equally dumb. So I'm going to go like 18 months. That's like a year and a half. That's like a hot second in advertising. That's like 2 campaigns and a cocktail. So where do you see AI in advertising in 2 campaigns and a cocktail? How do you start to see these early effects shaking out? Orly, first to you, and then I'll move to your friend on your right.
I think just integrating the tools into more of our processes, on a daily basis. I think number one, measurement and analytics or data insights is critical. And I think two, understanding the consumer landscape and people. People are fickle. There's a whole massive industry around consumer insights, focus groups, and getting at the heart of that data is really, really, really difficult. And so I see those two areas as being hugely impacted by AI in the short term. I think creative, we're really far from, there are people and companies using AI to develop creative today, whether it's versioning things out or translating things into different languages, like low barrier
work
creative output, and that's fine. I think it allows you to scale the creative process efficiently, which is great. From a high level, AI is not going to be building your Super Bowl ads anytime soon. I think we're really, really far from that still. But in the next 18 months, I think analytics, customer insights are going to be the big ones.
Lovely. John, from your builder point of view, where do you see 18 months rolling out?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the sort of impacts or change I think that's going to happen. I think if we're all honest with ourselves today, there's a lot of slack in the system where advertising dollars are spent inefficiently, and that's done because it's really hard to understand what drives outcomes and what does not. And so what's going to happen over the next 18 months, in my estimation, is that we're going to get something akin to the Toyota 7 Whys, where anyone will be able to start to dig in and drill down and understand exactly what the driving factors of their outcomes are at a much deeper level. And what that's going to do is make the incremental marketing dollar go further. That's simple. And I think it's going to be more impactful than any of us suspect, because there is so much opportunity to spend more efficiently or more effectively if you understand what is driving the outcomes of interest. So that's my prediction.
Love it. Well, I realize you've heard a lot from these two folks, but you've heard nothing from me, and I have opinions on damn near everything. Ask me anything. I'm serious. I'll come up with an opinion. Tim, what are you going to think is going to happen in 18 months? Well, I'll tell you, John. Shameless plug. Number one, Horizon Media and Akkio have totally got down. We've made out in the closet, and we came out and we think that there's something here, and we have a new partnership that we're launching together. We are launching the most badass marketing end-to-end platform you've ever seen, fully powered by AI, backed by all of the data that you know you want, backed by those insights you know you got to have for those prices you know you need. So come on and knocking, kids. You want to take a peek at it right here. Y'all got a phone. You know how to use it. The other shameless plug, number two, because what's an advertising conference if we can't have shameless plugs, am I right? Martini time. I believe it is 4:30, which means it's a working lunch, and we all know none of us stay sober after noon anymore. So there is a martini cart in the back, brought to you by Akkio. You know they're paying VC money for this, so let's go spend some Silicon Valley dollars, right? They're good for it. Those kids on the West are good for it. So go on over and get yourself 2 fingers of gin and maybe some dry olives. I would really like to thank Orly LeWinter. Thank you so much. Oh, don't mind that. They can make them in China. John, thank you very much. Friends,